Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's Ukrainian show on Pod TV. My name is Sasha Star, and our today guests are Dr. Jonathan Lockwood. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Excuse the air quality here.
Wow.
It's bad. Or something's bad. It can't be the camera. Whatever.
Okay. Now we have Ivan Kucherenko from Kyiv, Ukraine. Welcome to the show, Ivan.
Hello,
and
everyone.
Of the network, Nick Poliviado. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, Sasha.
Great. And I will start with one very important video that Ivan prepared for us. This is something about Western help to Ukraine. People talk about it, but sometimes they don't see exactly for what it is. Let's do it. Welcome.
During the last year, Ukraine has broken a lot of ice to receive military aid. Every negotiation with the Allies started with a solid no, but always ended with a yes. From javelins to long-range missiles. Every new stage became evidence of Ukraine's readiness to fight and the ability of its partners to provide support. Here is how the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dmytro Kuleba, has shaped the idea of the Ukrainian fair deal. At the onset, Ukraine needed the Big Seven of game-changing weapons critical to win the war. Over the past year, we have managed to unlock political decisions on 6 out of 7. Aircraft remains the only issue in the works. And this is how it worked. Winter, man-portable anti-tank systems. Columns of armored vehicles sent to attack the primary target, Kyiv, are burned down by the anti-tank systems. The first Western aid received before the invasion helps to withstand the hardest days. Spring, artillery. Ukraine stands its ground in a large-scale artillery contest. Russia fires tens of thousands of projectiles each day. The first Western howitzers start appearing on the front line. American M777, Polish Krab, French César, Slovak Susanna II, and German Panzerhaubitze. They fire less, but with higher precision and efficiency. Summer, multiple launch rocket systems. Russian bases and warehouses burn nearly every day, all thanks to the HIMARS with the 70-kilometer strike area, a new stage of Western trust. Thanks to the heroism and long-range weapons, Ukrainians counterattack and liberate more than 50% of the territories occupied in 2022. Fall, anti-aircraft defense systems. Russian missiles strike the critical infrastructure objects of Ukraine. The terror aims to deprive peaceful cities of electricity and heating as the winter comes. The negotiations to close the sky over Ukraine started at the very beginning, and finally, the Allies reacted to the resilience of the Ukrainians. NASAMS and IRIS-T. These intercept enemy missiles while the USA prepares to transfer any army's weapon of dreams, the Patriot system. Winter, tanks. Volodymyr Zelensky convinces a coalition of countries to provide Abrams, Leopard, and Challenger 2. Tanks will allow defending and counterattacking. Long-range missiles. Long-range missiles can destroy Russian troops before they reach the front line. They will help to save lives and bring the victory closer. Spring. Airplanes? Ukraine urges not to hesitate with the next crucial decision. Aviation is a key to ending the war. F-16, along with other Western airplanes, can secure the skies from missiles and enemy jets. The world is united around the forces of good, and we can stop the evil here and now.
A very powerful video. It shows that actually, if you consider the latest package, its enormous firepower is being supplied to Ukraine. I'm just being very disappointed about the decision of F-16s, or the lack of the decision, or decision was made, but the planes are not supplied. It's the same thing. See, I think there's kind of a trap that what they're saying, Ukrainians, okay, you get the victory, and as a result, you will be accepted in NATO, and you will get the planes. It's the same thing. Then, let's see, you have people who are trying to learn how to jump in the water. And what they say is, okay, here's a swimming pool. There's no water. You first learn how to jump, and then once you learn that, then we will give you the water. So now you will already know how to jump. See, because the concept of getting victory over Russians at this particular situation, it's not that it's impossible, it's just so much more difficult to achieve without planes than with the planes. And I don't understand what justifies asking Ukrainians to do something what could be achieved fairly easily, going through enormous efforts, losing their heroic soldiers. It's very difficult. Must be some logical explanation, which Dr. Lockwood will provide. However,
Figure the odds.
However,
My crystal ball for peering into people's minds in the inner sanctums of Washington, D.C. is not that powerful.
No.
I'm sorry.
It's it's difficult actually to blame anybody. Okay, where would you start? You would start with Biden, most likely, right? But Biden just today or yesterday he unleashed his personal funds, not his own funds, but that only as a president he's one who can deal with. And so looks like he wants to help Ukraine as much as possible, but there's some kind of a red line in his brain which does not allow him to supply planes while the decision was already made. So what Biden is, I mean, when you're talking about 125 years old man, some interesting things may happen. Well, he's younger than that, but still, the process, thinking process probably isn't much different in him. Although there are several other great people, like look at Kissinger, who turned 100 just a few days ago. Trump is not that much younger. He's 77. Although compared to Kissinger, he's a kid. And so here will be another kid in the White House pretty soon. Or maybe not. Maybe he will be in the other house.
I think actually the answer is that the truth is not in Biden's head, but somewhere in the cabinets of the White House. I've seen a recent very funny video from a Russian propagandist show when they stated that President Biden is controlled by the Ukrainian authorities. That they influence him, and that's why he is doing some decisions not to be friendship towards Russia, but to support Ukraine. Actually, Russian propaganda always lies, but I think that in this case they are partially right, because I'm not sure if President Biden is so self-dependent to make such decisions. I think that unfortunately he's too dependent from his advisors and his team in the White House, and unfortunately not all of that team wishes Ukraine a fastest victory. For some of them, and I don't know the reasons, maybe Jonathan will make a cue on them, but for some of them, keeping this war as long as possible probably is more profitable or more important than to supply Ukraine with all required weapons as soon as possible to end this war, because no other explanations for that.
The only thing that I can surmise as far as the hesitancy to supply F-16s is concerned is that the military and political leadership in the U.S., they are taking a wait-and-see attitude to the progress of the Ukrainian counteroffensive to see whether or not it is worthwhile, if they're successful enough, to justify committing the F-16s. As far beyond that, I mean, there's a lot of political infighting going on within the military and political circles in the U.S. that we just are not privy to, and it looks mysterious and just in times incomprehensible. I mean, if you look at the history of past wars in the United States, and you looked at the public discourse about what was supposedly going on, as compared to the actual dialogue that was going on within the administration itself, but you usually don't find out about that until after the fact, historical hindsight. So there's a lot of infighting going on right now, no doubt, within the U.S. that we simply, which the media is certainly not privy to. They can guess, but there is a certain internal logic to holding on to the F-16s, again, which just looks totally opaque and mysterious to us. On the other hand, we do have a good, reliable feel for how well the Ukrainian counteroffensive is going, and that seems to be going well enough that the Ukrainians haven't even yet committed their main reserves to exploit. The speculation seems to be that Ukraine is very carefully probing along these sides, or a series of reconnaissance and force attacks, and they're exploiting whatever seems to be the most useful. So right now it's just it's another waiting game while we wait to see, while we wait for the leadership in the United States to determine, okay, is this the proper time to commit the F-16s?
Well, the sources I got, John,
they don't want to commit to a losing hand.
Okay, the sources I've got, John, is that they are actually working with the Ukrainian pilots, training them on the F-16s as we speak. So the plan is actually to transfer F-16s over at the proper time once the pilots are trained enough to run the F-16s. Right. Remember, these are very expensive pieces of equipment, and they don't want the Russians to shoot them down. You know, they want them to have the air superiority. So I think behind the scenes, because you don't want to talk about it to the Russians, that they're actually training the pilots to take over the F-16s.
Actually, my understanding is that F-16s will not be even supplied by US directly. It will be supplied by Denmark, Netherlands, and I think Finland. And the US gave permission by saying, well, if these countries are feeling that they want to supply F-16s, we have nothing against it. That's how the US is covering their behind.
As far as I know, United States allocated around $100 million last year to train Ukrainian pilots on F-16, but this training started only this year, so it's very strange. By the way, we're always talking about the examples of the Second World War, but we didn't mention the First World War in our shows. And recently, I've seen a Netflix drama, All Quiet on the Western World, by novel of Erich Maria Remarque, and decided to learn, to recall a little bit of history and to discover how it happened that United States entered the First World War. Because with the Second World War, everything is clear. It was Pearl Harbor, and only after that, United States entered the Second World War in full power. But what about the First World War? And I've discovered that the reason for United States to enter the First World War and to at least help other European countries to defeat Germany was that Germany was trying to make Mexico attack on the United States, and government of the United States discovered that issue and decided to enter the war in order to punish Germany. And what is about with our reality? We've seen how Russia intervened into elections in the United States. We've seen numerous cases when Russian hackers, government hackers, attacked the infrastructure.
Just in the last 2 days.
Yeah, and military infrastructure, IT infrastructure of the United States. I don't know what any science United States has to receive in order to act in their full power in this war, at least by supporting Ukraine, not by sending American troops to Ukraine, but at least to provide Ukraine with enough weapons, to provide Ukraine with aircraft, to provide Ukraine with the ATACMS missiles. We are talking more than 1 year about them, and but we haven't received them yet. I don't know really. Maybe you can explain what may happen. What may happen? What Russia should do with the United States for them to act more in more power towards
See,
Russia.
Ivan, there is a certain inertia which is quite powerful in the Second World War, where all, including the United States, believe that Russia has a great army, they have great missiles and thermonuclear bombs, and so on, and that paralyzes all the decision-making process. I'm even surprised that the U.S. Started to help Ukraine at all, because if they're so scared of Russian power, how dare United States will supply even Stinger and other ammunition in the first month of war. Then they saw that, well, nothing happened. Russia doesn't attack Europe and the United States, so they went a little bit farther with HIMARS and with other, and now they're going full power, but aircraft, okay? That's where I know. So I don't know really what has to happen, because there is nothing to fear what Russia will do, because Putin doesn't want to die. And to use nuclear, tactical, or any other arms means a death, a physical death of Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin just happened to be not in a position to be willing to die. He just refuses to die, because if he wouldn't refuse to die, he would use tactical nuclear weapons several months ago, a year ago, or whatever. The man just doesn't want to die. It's just as simple as that. So, I mean, you could supply Ukraine quietly, 40, 50 F-16s, and especially if it could be done through Denmark and Netherlands and Finland and so on. So U.S. will say, sorry, it's not us. It's Denmark did. So go and destroy Copenhagen. But it's not us. We didn't do anything.
Well, as you know, the United States likes to do things under the table.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the Shah of Iran was a good example, but there's many examples that we do things covertly not overtly. So when it comes to supplying the F-16s, we want to do it covertly, not overtly, which is also including training the Ukrainian pilots to run them, and then transferring them over. And I just think they should do it sooner than later, because I really believe the Ukrainian pilots are capable of flying the F-16s. And no matter what, Ukraine must have air superiority over Russia, which is not really a hard thing to do, because I agree with Sasha. The Big Bear showed their weakness in their first 3 days trying to take Kyiv. But the real problem is that our perceived weakness, how we got out of Afghanistan. I mean, that didn't look very pretty on the television set. Our perceived weakness, how we just let Crimea go. So the real problem is the Big Bear figures, well, then, since the United States isn't going to do anything in Afghanistan, they're not going to do anything on Crimea, we might as well just take Ukraine. Okay. But I guess he forgot the Ukrainians don't want the Big Bear in their backyard. So they got rid of him, which more power. I was impressed.
Nick, there is
they repelled that attack.
There is fundamental difference between Afghanistan people and Ukrainian people.
Oh yeah, Sasha. By
Forget
the way, very important. Very important. Here's the stats that we got, Ivan. When we left Afghanistan, there were 400,000 people in the Afghan army to stop the Taliban. Seriously, within days, Kabul fell. And I'm sitting there going, like, what happened to the military intelligence, John? I mean, how could they create such a big blunder on the chessboard? You got 400,000 people, none of them could fight. So the thought here was, when Russia invaded, they'll take over Kyiv in a matter of days. Really, that's the report we got, because look what happened to Kabul. And it didn't happen.
If you
Not only that, you guys made them look really bad.
If you want to compare it to the chess game, imagine
it's a chess game.
You're playing a chess game, and you have a interesting position, solid, and you're thinking, what's your next move? And you look around, and then you look at the board, and all of a sudden there are no rooks. Your queen is gone.
No pieces gone.
How does it happen? You have 400,000 people, so all of them are gone at once. Oh, that's impossible. So I think this is number one.
I think you're going to see air superiority by the end of the year. The F-16s will be transported over by the end of the year.
I think it's much sooner than that.
And you're right, Sasha. It might be
you know why?
The reports I got is that they're working with the Ukrainians right now and training them to fly the F-16s. And then this war will be over.
There are already enough Ukrainians who know how to fly F-16.
That's what I figured too. Yeah.
But there is a kind of a trap that I'm really scared of. Right now, Ukrainians are definitely making progress. They are attacking, keeping their reserves intact. Actually, they're trying. I was listening to one of the analysts, the military analyst from Israel, who was analyzing the situation. He's saying that all Ukrainians are trying to do is to commit Russians to use their reserves on one of the part of the front line, and once they will use the reserve, Ukrainians will hit really hard with their reserves. And here is a trap. It may not be enough without aviation. It may just not be enough. So the Ukrainians could be great in the strategy and implementation and everything else, and yet they don't have this real knock that they need to do. It's like, I read when I was young, I read one of the stories by Jack London. I think it was A Piece of Meat, and there was a story about the aged boxer who was very good in his when he was young, and he was fighting a young protege that was promoted and so on. So there was a fight. They agreed to committed. So here's a fight, and before the fight, this older boxer, he went to have a dinner, and the steak which he wanted to buy was quite expensive, and instead he had some kind of inferior food, maybe hamburger. I don't know, don't remember what he had. And the fight goes on, and he is much more experienced, and he maneuvers his opponent. And it's a time now to do the killer punch, and he just doesn't have strength to do this punch. He does the punch, but it's not powerful enough. He just didn't have the proper piece of meat. So here the Ukrainians, they can maneuver brilliantly and get Russians expose their reserves, and yet they don't have that heavy punch that would crush them. And the victory is there, and they just don't have it. So another trap is that, let's see, Russians are successful to a certain extent, and so now Biden will say, well, look, you're successful without any F-16s. Why do we need them? You're already victorious. So when is the time is that it's the right time now? Okay, here is F-16s. At what point? When you already got your victory?
To fly over Khreshchatyk, the main street of Kiev, on the military parade when Ukraine will win, obviously. Or at least we have F-16, so they can fly it here and to show to the whole world. What is interesting that I hope we will also discuss it today. Different countries propose Ukraine peace negotiations with Russia. It is China, it is South African countries, and today there is an African delegation in Ukraine, which came to offer this some kind of peace formula with Russia. But what is interesting, and all those peace formulas, both Chinese and African, they are profitable to Russia, actually, because they don't consider Ukrainian interests. But what is interesting that Russia struck Kiev today with the Kinzhal missiles. Actually, the time when African leaders were in Kiev, so they had to go to bomb shelter. And before that, Russia struck the Kiev when Antonio Guterres, the General Secretary of the United Nations, who is also trying to make some peace with Ukraine and Russia, but at the same time showing that United Nations is incapable organization to stop this war. And by this missile strikes, I think Putin only shows that there can be only one peace formula based on the power. And he's showing that Russia has power and capabilities to strike Ukraine, even when his allies are coming to offer some peace formulas. I've got another video for today about the real one peace formula which can end this war and prevent future wars, and this is Ukrainian peace formula. So let's watch it. And
before we end,
Ukrainian peace formula of 10 items. Item 1. Nuclear safety. Russia must comply with the resolutions of the International Atomic Energy Agency and withdraw its personnel from the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Ukrainian authorities must regain full control of it. 4 Ukrainian operating nuclear plants and 1 decommissioned should be monitored by the IAEA mission. Item 2. Food safety. The United Nations mediated a Black Sea grain initiative with the representatives of Turkey and Ukraine on one hand and Turkey and Russia on the other. This initiative should be made permanent. It should also be extended to the ports of Mykolaiv and Olvia. Item 3. Energy safety. Ukraine should get air defense systems for protection of its energy infrastructure. The United Nations can send its experts to Ukrainian facilities to examine the damage that has already been done. Item 4. Exchange of prisoners on an all-for-all basis. Hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers are held in inhumane conditions. It has to end. Moreover, the departed civilians, children, and adults must be returned. Item 5. Restore the respect for the United Nations Charter. The United Nations General Assembly deplored the Russian invasion and condemned attempted illegal annexations of Ukraine's lands. Russia must confirm the territorial integrity of Ukraine according to the United Nations Charter. Item 6. Full withdrawal of Russian forces. The Russian Federation must withdraw its troops. Ukraine's borders should be under the control of Ukraine, including Donbass and Crimea. Item 7. Justice. A special tribunal should be established. It will investigate events following the Russian invasion. The United Nations General Assembly agreed that a mechanism for compensation should be established. It also recommended to create a registry of damages. This resolution must be implemented. Item 8. Save the environment. Russia needs to account for damage done to Ukraine's ecology. The land needs to be cleared, mines decommissioned, sewage treatment plants restored. This goal calls for a separate international platform. Item 9. Prevent escalation. The strongest security guarantee for Ukraine lies in its capacity to defend itself. To do so, Ukraine needs resources. It needs investment in the Ukrainian military-industrial complex, the transfer of weapons and intelligence, a training program for the military, and joint exercises together with NATO and the EU. As a first step, Ukraine's allies can sign a politically and legally binding treaty on security guarantees, the Kyiv Security Compact. Item 10. Lock the achievements. This means a new security structure for Europe and for the world. Each item implies real commitment from an allied country. 10 items, 10 commitments. Here is the plan.
Yes, it is a plan. And I hope that sooner or later it will be implemented because all wars eventually end. But to implement such plan as requires the victory of Ukraine. With that, we'll end today's program. Thank you very much for all participants, and we'll see you on Tuesday, same time, same place. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Ow.